Classic American pattern here. So hopefully I can help you with some tips on that elk wing, because that seems to be the most difficult part that a lot of people struggle with. So I'm using a size 10 Daiichi hook, along with 8/0 thread, and we'll just attach our thread, get it jammed on there. And then what I'm going to do is locate the 2/3 position, 2/3 up the hook shank, and that's where we're going to tie in the calf wing right there. So the trick with calf, first thing is you want to get some good calf body hair. Of course, there's a hot rod guy outside. First thing you want to do with the calf is you want to get good, nice, long calf hair that's fairly straight, and then also is trying to figure out how much hair to use. So I try to take about that first row and get a scissor full amount, and that seems to be about the right amount. So what I'm going to do is make a loose wrap and just gather all that, and then cinch down on it pretty good to secure that on top. Now notice I don't really let go with my left hand, because that's going to want to roll around the hook. Alright, I need to clip off all this excess, and instead of making a blunt cut right there, I'm going to do more of a multiple cuts, maybe like that ladder effect. It's going to look a little choppy and messy, but okay. Now what I'm going to do is just take my left hand there and just hold that in place again. We'll come down and tie down those butt ends. What that does now is we're creating a nice taper along the body of the fly. You're going to get a few whiskers there, but we can trim those off and they'll be covered up later. We have that calf stand straight up, so let's pull everything back and let's make a bunch of wraps really tight up underneath, and make some firm tight wraps. Remember, we're using 8/0, so you got to be a little careful not to really crank on it too hard. Okay, it's going to look a little messy like that. So now what we'll do is let's bring our thread behind the hair, and we're going to now part that wing. So just carefully eyeball a part down the middle so you have even wings. And once we've located that, we'll make one wrap from behind and come right down through the middle and create that part. We can eyeball it if we like it. Now let's pull the front wing back and just figure 8 back through, down through the part. And we'll do that a couple times just to split those wings. Like that. Alright, now we're going to take each wing and make clockwise wraps around each one. Let's start with the far wing. So we'll come underneath it, and you're going to make slightly loose wraps. And then once you've made 2 or 3, you can kind of tighten down. We'll come around the front wing. This one's a little tricky because it wants to slip on us. Again, make 2 or 3, and they look pretty good. Now let's just continue tying the fly. So let's take our thread back to the midpoint of the hook, about right there. And that's where we're going to tie in the moose tail. Moose is nice and straight. So what we'll do is let's get about 10 of those moose hairs. And we'll clean off the fluff. And we'll throw those in the stacker. And then point it so the tips are out the back. We want the tail to be about the length of the hook shank, so once I have that, I'm not going to trim it right there. We're going to trim it just slightly in front of it. Then I have something I can lay down right there at that halfway. And that just fills in maybe that taper that we created from the front. And we'll secure that tail going to the back, and now we create a nice even underbody all the way to directly above the barb of the hook. And we'll come right back to that halfway point. Now we're ready for our peacock. I'm going to use 2 strands of peacock. And we'll lay those against the hook, tie those down to the base of the tail, come right back to the halfway point. And now we can begin wrapping the peacock, building a nice little peacock body. Once we get to the halfway point, let's tie that off. Hold it straight up with our right hand, drop our thread over with our left hand, and let's come forward just slightly, and we'll build a little base for that red royal tag. Now with peacock it tends to be a little brittle, so let's just make a couple of wraps, spiral wraps back over the peacock, and that'll make that fly a lot more durable. And now we're ready for the floss. So I've just got some red floss, and we'll secure that in there right that halfway point. And we'll build our little royal tag. Alright, let's just take our thread up underneath the peacock, and we'll now go to just behind the wings, and we'll wrap our peacock to there. Secure that in. And again, we'll make a couple spiral wraps through there to secure that. Now our thread should be positioned just behind the wing. And I've got some whiting saddle hackle. So I've got the top of the feather facing me. This would be the underside, a little more dull, and also those hackle barbs tend to curve towards the underside. So let's just strip part of that, and I'm going to tie it in so the top is facing me. And we can secure that in there behind the wing, pull the wings back, and advance our thread to the eye of the hook. Now we can begin wrapping the hackle. Let's make 3 or 4 good turns behind the calf, and now let's pull the calf back, come straight in front of the calf, and we'll begin make 3 or 4 good turns in front. Try not to crowd your head, that's easy to do. Hold it straight up in the air, and we'll drop our thread over with our left hand about 3 times. Now we can snip off the end there. If you have a few whiskers hanging out in the front, we can pull everything back and try to, this is why I like to use 8/0, then I can make a bunch of wraps and not build up a lot of bulk and control my thread a little better. Trying to cover up any little trimmed ends. And now we can whip finish, throw on some head cement. And we've got a good high floater for the summertime dry fly action.